My name is Dr. Adie Wilson-Poe. I am an instructor, which is a junior faculty member at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis. I wear another hat, which is as the Chief Scientific Officer for Habu Health. So I have a number of projects that I'm speaking about today. The first of which is going to be what my primary research has been as an academic researcher, which is the interaction between cannabis and opioids. So we've known for a long time that cannabis can reduce our reliance upon opioids because it is a pain reliever. It is something that can be used safely over the long term. So we have a couple of experts from California and from Canada to help share their research results as well. This is probably the most exciting topic, in my opinion, on the stage today because it has such drastic public health impact. So, the CDC has attempted to wrangle the opioid epidemic, and states have enacted prescription drug monitoring programs, but no program, no law, no new drug works as well as cannabis does when it comes to reducing opioid use. So that's a really exciting topic we'll be talking about. The other thing I'm really excited about is to talk about the new taxonomy of cannabis. That is, how do we develop a category system? What kinds of plants are there? What are the kinds of considerations we put into what those categories are? Is it purely based on the genetics? Is it purely based on the chemistry? Is it purely based on people's responses to that chemistry? Is it all three of those things? Is it things that we haven't thought about yet? So this is really the beginning of a conversation where we're thinking about what kind of cannabis is there and what kind of cannabis is the right cannabis for me. So that's the new taxonomy. And then we're also, of course, extremely excited to be helping present some of the winners for the categories that all the judges submitted their feedback about, all these beautiful cultivars that the cultivators have submitted, the central purpose of this competition. So the state of cannabis research right now is that we don't have nearly enough information than what people want. So doctors need to know what works, what dose, what administration route. Patients are asking their doctors those questions. Federal agencies like the FDA, they want to know, is this safe? Is it effective? There are many, many, many unanswered questions. Which cannabinoids, which terpenes? Is whole plant medicine truly better than isolated medicine? So we've literally just barely scratched the surface when it comes to the research into clinical cannabis. But when it comes to preclinical evidence, we're talking about things that were done in petri dishes, in animals. That work has been going on for many, many, many decades. So we have a very firm understanding of what does delta-9 THC do to the CB1 receptor in which brain region. We've known that kind of stuff for a very long time, but that's not the kind of knowledge that people are hungry for right now. They want to know what's going to work in the human being. Does it cure cancer? Does it help people with Crohn's disease? So the problem with getting those kinds of answers, those clinical questions that we have, is that there are massive barriers to conducting that kind of research in the United States of America. So most of the biomedical research funding in this country comes from the National Institutes of Health, the NIH. And right now, the only way you can get money to study cannabis from the NIH is going through the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA. That's who I've been funded by my entire career, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But it really is the back door. I am looking at how do we use cannabis to reduce opioid misuse and drug abuse. But that really is historically the only way that NIDA has been able to give us any funds, is to look at the drug abuse angle of cannabis. So the NIH doesn't have any funds available to tell us or to enable us to conduct this kind of research. So that's the first barrier, and the reason that barrier is there is because the federal government does not recognize cannabis as a therapeutic drug, which it clearly is. So the other issue is that if you do want to conduct any kind of clinical research with cannabis in the United States of America, you have to get your cannabis from NIDA. They have a drug supply, which is maintained by one university in Mississippi. And if you want to do any kind of clinical trials, or you want to see what happens to people's reaction time or how well they drive a car, you have to write to NIDA, you have to get a DEA license, and you have to get cannabis from them. And that drug supply is notoriously low in potency. It is riddled with mold and other pathogens. It does not in any way resemble the vast variety of products that we see in regulated markets throughout the United States. So there's this monopoly on cannabis itself, as well as these federal barriers to getting research funding. There's a couple of other administrative things, like it takes a very long time to get a DEA license, to get permission to use these drugs in a laboratory. But a lot of these problems will go away if Schedule 1 goes away. Once Schedule 1 goes away, then we'll be able to recognize this plant for what it truly is, which is something that is very low in abuse liability and very high in medical value.